Tonight on The Buzz, we start with Danny Manus. He's a script consultant and the CEO of No Bull Script. He shares his thoughts on what it takes to maximize your writing. Recently, a court decision determined that interns need to be paid. However, Hollywood runs on the labor of countless unpaid interns. So Jonathan Handel, the entertainment labor reporter for The Hollywood Reporter, joins us to explain what this ruling means. Finally, Sean Wycliffe is the CEO and co-founder of Dealflicks, which was founded 3 years ago to get more people to the movies at a discount. Tonight, Sean shares how his system works. All this plus Tech Talk and Buzz Flashback. The Buzz starts now.
Tonight's digital production Buzz is brought to you by Otherworld Computing at MacSales.com and by Advantage Video Systems at AdvantageVideoSystems.com.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking,
authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
Uniting industry experts,
Production.
filmmakers,
Post-production.
and content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
And welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for creative content producers covering media production, post-production, marketing, and distribution around the world. It's good to have you with us. Mike, we've been reading about the death of the PC for a while now, but today...
The what?
The death of the PC. Remember those things?
Those personal computer things?
Yeah.
Those big, thick ones, those big, really wide. We had a bunch of those at the LassiePug meeting last night.
They
didn't work.
Trying to set anything up with him is a challenge.
Today, Sorry for interrupting.
Today, the Gartner Group announced that the annual sales of iOS devices equals the annual sales of all Windows PCs.
Really?
Android devices surpassed PC sales back in 2012. Now, this month, iOS devices surpassed all PC sales.
How much work do you actually do on these things?
I don't.
You're not out in the field a lot. You're here in the office a lot. So you don't do a lot of work on these things, right?
No, I use it for reading email, and I use it for consuming media, but I don't use it for creating media.
No.
For creating, I need a laptop
you need a computer.
I need an iMac.
Yeah, well, people are doing a lot of work on these things.
Are you doing a lot of work on
None.
yours?
Zero. I don't do a lot of work, period. Whether it be my laptop or my phone, doesn't matter. No, but a lot of people are doing everything on their phones.
My thumbs would get tired trying
to
type.
So in other words, when you're creating media, create it for those people who work on phones.
So I should hold the camera sideways.
Yes.
So we get a vertical.
Yes, no vertical video.
Vertical video is the way to go.
In fact, there's a video out there that tells you not to do vertical video. I'll have to give it to you at the end of the show. No vertical video, ever. Ever.
No vertical video ever?
Ever.
Not once?
No. There's somebody in the chat right now has got to be saying, absolutely, no vertical video. No, it's a sin.
Well,
what happened?
All right, well, now that I'm recovering from the shock of no more vertical video, I want to remind you to join us on Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com and subscribe to our free weekly show newsletter at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Mike and I will be back with Danny Manus right after this. When you're working with media, one thing is essential. Your computer needs peak performance. However, when it comes to upgrading your Mac, there are so many different options to choose from that the process can be confusing. That's why Otherworld Computing carries the best upgrades that lets your computer performance and storage grow as your needs grow. Since 1988, OWC has become one of the most trusted names in quality hardware and comprehensive support to the worldwide computer industry. With an extensive online catalog of Mac, iPhone, and iPad enhancement products, as well as a dedicated team of knowledgeable experts providing first-rate tech support, OWC has everything you need to take your current system to the next level. Whether you need to maximize your system's memory, add blazing speed, or enhance reliability, look no further than the friendly experts at OWC. Learn more by visiting macsales.com today. That's macsales.com.
Danny Manus is the CEO of No Bull Script Consulting. He's also an in-demand script consultant and author of the book No BS for Screenwriters, Advice from the Executive Perspective. Danny is here to help us maximize our creative potential, which sounds really good in the middle of July. Hello, Danny. Welcome.
Hey, Larry. Thank you for having me back. Pleasure to be back.
We are delighted. I still remember with fondness our visit last October when we were chatting with you, so we were looking forward to this visit. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Tell me, what does, let's set some background. What does No Bull Script Consulting do?
We are a full-service script consulting company. I say we, but it's really just me. Although we have launched a really new service that I'd love to tell you about because it's awesome. But we're a script consulting company. I'm a recovering development executive who worked at a number of production companies here in Hollywood. And now I work one-on-one with writers, producers, and reps on their projects, on their scripts, on their TV pilots, on their pitches to get them where they need to be and then hopefully, get them ready to be submitted and go forward and succeed.
Well, I want to talk about that for just a minute. I mean, you're a script consultant, but why would someone hire a script consultant?
Because there are, 65,000 scripts registered every year, plus probably another 25,000 that aren't registered every year. And there's just so many scripts out there, and executives and agents and managers and producers have to go through so much that the level of quality and concept, and there's so many submissions to concepts the last few years, that your script really has to be a lot better than good. Good is no longer good enough. And so, especially since I have the executive background as well as the writing background, it's great to get a professional opinion to make sure that your script is going to stand out in the good ways, not the bad ways, and stand up against a crowd of tens and tens of thousands of others. Yeah, and that's getting harder to do.
Danny, I was just thinking about this as I was putting my questions together for today. Scripts are reworked so much, even after they've been brought on board and they're getting ready to prep for production. What does a writer actually need to put into their script in the first place? Because they know it's going to get rewritten and then rewritten and then rewritten. It's like do you even need to have any words on a page at all? Why not just turn in a blank sheet of paper and say, imagine a script?
That would be nice, but I think that worked in the 80s and early 90s, but unfortunately not so much anymore. And again, the reason is just because, yes, it will be rewritten to death. They are going to bring other people on, other writers, directors, and everyone is going to have their notes. Chances are at the higher levels, it's going to be taken away from you and given to some writer who's going to be paid $1 million for 3 weeks worth of work. But to get to that point, you still need a great script, and you still need a great concept and have to know how to bring out what's special about that concept and your voice, especially if you want to submit to agents and managers and get representation. Your script is going to change 100 different ways, but you have to do the best job you can. And hopefully consulting, and there are a lot of us out there, some should be and some should not be, but we're there, basically I'm there as your personal development executive, basically, to make sure that it's getting where it needs to be and that your voice is shining and you're developing as a writer and to be the first line of defense, really, for executives and managers who you're going to be submitting to. And that's actually what led to the second reader service that we just launched. So that was kind of the impetus for that, actually.
I was just I'm listening to this conversation here. I'm just wondering, wait, who the heck wants to be a screenwriter when he knows that it's going to be rewritten and rewritten and rewritten, and he might have to have a consultant. And I mean, look, you got to let your ego go here. And if I was a writer and I have an ego, that's going to be a tough thing for me to do.
It is. It's definitely one of the hard things to get over. It's hard for me to get over.
Right.
And I've been in this business a dozen years, and I still, I write articles for, some websites and things like that. And sometimes I have editors come back and ask me a question. I'm like, what? And that's just, like one sentence in an article. So I get the frustration. It's and I do writing of my own, so I get the frustration. But if you can't be collaborative and you can't take notes and you can't rewrite, then honestly you don't have much of a career, in the future. So it's better to learn on your own, on your own time with your own kind of set of notes and people working with you who are on your side before you get thrown into the Sharknado waters and, or turn to chum. Why not, start that process early before you start submitting so that you're better equipped when it happens.
Get turned to chum before you enter to submit your script as opposed to
How is it different being a screenwriter than, say, a novelist who dealing with an editor or a series of editors? I mean, we're dealing with a lot more people when we're screenwriters instead of... Okay.
Yes, you will be dealing with a lot more people as screenwriters normally than as book writers. It's a very different medium. I now have a bunch of book clients, especially as, books have been the biggest thing that Hollywood has gone after those last few years for adaptations. More book writers are trying to get into the adaptation business. And I speak at a lot of book conferences the last couple of years, and it is very different. It's a very different mindset going from book writing to film writing, but you're still going to have editors, you're still going to have publishers, you're still going to have people giving you notes. The difference is most of the time, your publisher is not going to take the book that you have written and then give it to a whole other writer to rewrite from page one.
Danny, you mentioned that there's a lot of different script consultants out there. For a writer that's looking to get help, clearly you're one of the good guys, but you can't handle everybody. How do they pick the right script consultant for their project and for themselves? What criteria should they use?
Everyone's got a website, and do your due diligence and look at people's real experience and what kind of angle they have coming to your script. There's a lot of people who, were readers, or were assistants, or are, other fellow screenwriters. And I think everyone has a valid opinion, but you want to look for me, the reason I started my company, was that there was not a whole lot of executive perspective out there. And that's who you're submitting to. You're not submitting, when your script's ready, you're not submitting it to other writers. You're submitting it to executives. And so that's why I started the company. But, you want to look for their bio and their experience and how long they've been doing this. And if they do this, as their full-time job, or if they're just doing this for an extra $150, a month. And you want to make sure that they have, great testimonials, that they've been around for a while. And then it's really just about a personality and whether you like the way that they work and whether you connect with them and find something about them. And sometimes it's trial and error, and that happens too. But it's really just about being smart and doing your due diligence and, and who you want to work with, who's going to help you get that script to the next level. And, of course, how much you want to spend, which is obviously a huge consideration. But yeah, for me, like I was saying, we just launched a new service where you can not only get notes from me, but you can also get notes from a working executive, producer, or manager. We've got about 10 awesome companies. A few of them are A-list companies, and they have agreed to read the script and give you notes, have a notes call with you like they would have with any other writer, go through your script and give you notes, which I think is invaluable because they are, like I said, the people you want to submit to. So why not get notes from me and from them?
I think
so we're really excited about it.
I think, yeah, I'd be excited about it too. If you got a great script and we upload that script to one of those A-list people that you talk about, what if they love it so much? Will they buy it?
Well, of course, that's the ultimate goal and hope and wish. But really, because you're not submitting to their company, which is, I've been kind of telling people that you're not submitting to their company, you're submitting to No Bull Script, that you're getting notes from someone who works at this company. And obviously the goal is if they like you and they like the script, you create a connection. They may not buy that script or it may not be what they're looking for, but you create a connection. Now you know someone that you can send your next script to, or they may like you. You're spending an hour plus on the phone with them. They may want to bring you in and meet with you. So, yeah, that is the hope. But, you're actually just paying for great notes, professional notes from people who are truly in the know because they are doing it every day.
Danny, we've got a live chat going, and Sarge on the live chat writes, why is there so little uplifting material to watch on TV? Why is everything so dystopic? Are there no positive scripts?
It's a good question. I mean, I will say faith-based movies the last couple of years have been a growing trend. I've done a little work, actually, in that world the last couple of years, and there is a market for it. I think there's still the happy Hollywood endings that you get in a number of movies. I mean, I think even, Trainwreck, which just came out, it's a romantic comedy. Yeah, it's a little darker, maybe a little bit more edgy, but it's still a kind of a happy story. And so I think there are happy stories. There are not, maybe just not the squeaky clean stories because, the market wants what the market wants. Hollywood does not make things in a vacuum, even though sometimes it feels that way. But hey, if you want a happy story, I heard there was a bidding war on an Emojis movie this past weekend. So my guess is half of that movie is going to be a lot of happy faces. So maybe that'll help.
Now, if you look at television, I mean, the shows that people are responding to and have responded to in the last few years are shows about self-destructive people. Whether it be the Ray Donovans or the Breaking Bads or the Hell on Wheels or these are all self-destructive people.
Yeah, the anti-hero has become the new hero, especially in television. And I think, people like TV because it does explore the darker side of our humanity over a longer period of time so we can, see a character change and how the whole world can be destroyed and put together over and over again. But yeah, it's just a reflection on society. So if you don't like it, it probably means there's something wrong in society and not so much something wrong with the television producers, because people tend to like that type of material. At the same time, there's a lot of reaffirming stuff out there like Transparent and, Frankie and Alice, and some other shows that I think are showing the upside of humanity and that kind of thing. So there is something for everyone out there. That's why TV is so popular these days, and it's why every producer out there is looking for television series right now. It's a good place to be because of the breadth of material out there that you can sell.
Danny, you've written or spoken recently about the whole idea of overcoming the summertime blues or a creative lethargy that hits during the summer. How do writers keep themselves moving forward? How do you keep yourself focused when you know you're going to get torn apart and turned into chum? What do you do?
I mean, the first thing you really have to do is you have to make sure that you're writing the right concept. And that is the number one issue I find with a lot of my writers is they're just not writing the right concept, whether it's, the right concept for them, the right concept for where they are in their career, or the right concept that could actually be a movie. They're writing something that might be a book or might be a TV series or might be a diary entry and nothing at all. But they're not writing the right concept for their goals or for what type of writer they are. And so if you're focusing on the wrong types of ideas, you're just, you're rolling a ball up a hill that is just continuously going to fall back on you. And you won't be inspired because nothing is going to happen to it. You're going to spend 6 months on it, and it's just going to sit there. And so finding the right material is paramount to kind of keep going. Finding the right process, whether that's your outlining process or your inspiration process, finding the place where you like to write, the time you like to write, the way you like to write, a nice little writing mantra. I came up with one about 2 months ago that I'm trying to make a thing. I don't know if it's a thing yet, but I'm trying to make a thing, which is write your way out. If you're dealing with something in your life, you're not happy with your circumstances in life, and you want to be a screenwriter as a career, a writer as a career, or a book writer, you have to write your way out. And so I'm trying to make that a thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll spread it. But,
I like it.
Find the mantra or whatever inspires you. Maybe it's a movie. Maybe it's a TV show. Anytime I put on the first 4 seasons of West Wing, I automatically want to sit down and write something. And so find that thing and then find the process, the outlining process, whether it's note cards or, for me, I do a dry erase board, but whatever works for you. And that might be trial and error too. Combine that and see if your concept really can be fleshed out, and just find that time and circumstance where you can maximize your passion and maximize your creativity and maximize your time. And, some people say, try to write a little bit every day. And that's great advice, but not everybody can write a little bit every day. So write when you feel you have the maximized potential for, creativity and passion for what you're writing.
And then when you're getting ready to submit the work, what's the top 1 or 2 tips that you have for a successful submission?
When you're actually submitting, it depends on, if you're going for an agent or a manager or a producer. I guess I'm a little biased, but my first tip is get some professional feedback first and make sure it's actually ready, because most scripts are not. And next is, do the networking work. There are tons of ways to get your script out there, whether it's through online sources, whether it's through social media, whether it's through cold calling, whether it's through contests. Most of the contests, the really big ones had their deadlines usually in May, somewhere between April and June.
And Danny, for people that want your advice, what website can they go to?
They can absolutely go to www.nobullscript.net, nobullscript.net.
And Danny Manus is the CEO of No Bull Script. And Danny, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, and please follow me on Twitter. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Danny.
Bye-bye. Jeff Stansfield started Advantage Video Systems in 2001, providing solutions for broadcast equipment and system integration, digital asset management, direct attached storage, and much more. Advantage Video Systems can integrate all of your equipment wherever you might need in your studio, office, classroom, or data center, and they can extend their services into a global support package. Their designers, editors, and technicians will help you achieve your competitive and creative goals. As Jeff always says, they truly want to make your entire day perfect. Visit Advantage Video Systems online at advantagevideosystems.com or call toll-free at 800-287-5095. Advantage Video Systems, putting creative technology to work for you. Jonathan Handel is an entertainment and technology attorney of Counsel at TroyGould in Los Angeles. He's also the contributing editor on entertainment labor issues for The Hollywood Reporter. He's got a blog at jhandel.com, and Mike and I are convinced that he doesn't sleep. Hello, Jonathan.
right.
Welcome back.
Hello, guys. It's a pleasure to be back.
So the last time you were on the BuZZ, you mentioned that there was a ruling against Fox regarding unpaid interns was overturned, or it was upheld, or something. What is the ruling, and what does it mean? Because now I'm all confused.
Well, you were right. The ruling that was against Fox 2 years ago was overturned about 2 weeks ago by the Court of Appeals, and the case had to do with unpaid interns on the movie Black Swan. The question was, should the interns have been paid? In general, the law requires that people who perform work need to get paid, but there is an allowance for unpaid interns. The question is, though, what constitutes a proper internship? What qualifications do you have to meet in order for someone to legitimately not be paid? Now, what the Department of Labor said, and what the district court agreed with, was that essentially, if the employer receives an immediate benefit, basically a benefit from what the intern is doing, and also, among other things, and it's a multi-factor test, but among other things, if regular workers are displaced by an intern's performing work that otherwise a regular worker would perform, that person is actually an employee and needs to get paid. The Court of Appeals disagreed and said that they wanted to adopt a test called the primary beneficiary test. Take a look at what benefits the intern is getting, what benefits the employer is getting, and see who is the quote-unquote primary beneficiary of the relationship. If it's the intern or the worker, then they are not considered an employee and can be an unpaid intern, is in essence the ruling.
So if I hear this correctly, if we bring somebody on board that's there to learn the craft and the intern is learning, then as long as that learning process is benefiting the intern, then the intern does not have to be paid. But if we're working them and we are getting benefit as employers getting benefit, then we have to pay them like we'd pay any other worker. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, somewhat, but you can get some benefit from what the intern is doing under the Court of Appeals ruling. And it should be emphasized, by the way, that this Court of Appeals was in New York. This was a federal case brought in the federal courts in New York. So it's possible that the courts here in California would decide differently. The federal courts in California might reach a different conclusion. There is no clear guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court on the matter, and that's why you had this bit of back and forth here. Also, these are multi-factor tests. So lest I sound like an advertisement for lawyers, you really would want to consult with an attorney before deciding, gee, is this okay or not? Now, what happened as a result of the 2013 ruling was that a lot of the major studios and also companies in the fashion industry and publishing industry that had unpaid internships converted those to paid positions or ended their internship programs. Now it appears that they might not necessarily have had to do that. They're under a lot less legal threat for two reasons. One is the substance of the decision that I just explained. In other words, it's more of a balancing test rather than something that's as potentially clear-cut as the district court decision made it out to be. But the other point is a little more subtle. Because this is a balancing test that requires examining multiple factors, what benefit is the intern getting? Are they in an educational program? What kind of work are they doing, et cetera? That makes it difficult for someone to bring a class action, which is what these lawsuits were brought as, because suddenly you have an individualized person-by-person determination rather than a broad-based class action determination. So classes are much less likely to get certified, and therefore lawyers are much less likely to bring these cases at all, because the return that you get, it's simply not economically feasible to bring one of these cases for a single person. You want to bring a class action, and essentially that door has been mostly shut now.
Now, for smaller companies who are not studios, what's the advice that you would give for people that want to do interns? Should the internship be of a limited basis? And I mean, what kind of general guidelines can you give to keep us somewhat out of trouble?
Well, in general, there should be a real educational purpose and a real training aspect to the internship. So if what's going on is that people are simply making photocopies and fetching coffee, and it's a wink and a nudge, that is not the sort of program that you want. On the other hand, if what's going on is in conjunction with academic credit, and there are instructional seminars, there is instruction going on of some sort, then you're better off. But really, one needs to take a look at the decision, and obviously the right way to do it, of course, is to consult with an attorney who can analyze that decision and look at what's proposed.
Now, if an intern is getting academic credit, he is essentially getting paid, is he not?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
If the intern is getting academic credit, he is getting paid, is he not?
Well, academic credit is not literally, I'm so sorry, is not literally equivalent to to monetary compensation. So if someone's getting academic credit, again, you need to analyze the variety of factors that the court's looking at. But certainly getting academic credit is a major factor, particularly under the new test.
So I'm just a little confused, and this probably is a stupid question, but in California law, for instance, if you're an intern, is it the law that you must be paid, or there are variables where you don't have to be paid?
Well, there are variables. I mean, it's again, what we're talking about here is a New York federal case. California, we don't have any real guidance on this.
Oh.
So, the likelihood is that people are going to look at this and say, well, this New York case is going to be persuasive, but the way the federal courts work, they are they are regional. So unless you get an enunciation from the U.S. Supreme Court, you don't necessarily have something that's binding in other parts of the country.
It's interesting.
So there isn't a clear answer there.
When you go to high-tech companies up in Silicon Valley, the Googles and the Yahoos and things like their internships, their summer internships pay really good money, like $80,000 and housing and everything else. And these are internships, and but they're high-paid internships. So
these are companies that have the money to do that, of course, and would rather be in some cases safe than sorry, I guess. But there's summer jobs, right?
There's summer jobs.
And that may be a bit different than an internship per se. I mean, I had summer jobs in the computer business when I was in school, and I was expected to produce work. I created some software, I wrote some reference manuals, things of that sort. So that's actual work for the benefit of the company. That's not per se an internship.
Well, it strikes me that
they call it internships.
We're going to be hearing more about this in the future, because it sounds like that the decision is not yet final. So additional cases are coming, or what's happening with this case?
Well, this case has been referred back to the district court under the new standard that the appeals court enunciated. The district court now has to go back and say, okay, are these particular individuals interns, or are they, or are they not? Do they need to be paid? So it'll be interesting to see what, some of these people were fetching coffee apparently, and some of them may have been getting more training. So some of them may yet turn out to have been people who should have been paid. We don't know.
Now, in the little bit of time we've got left, there's a note in my script here talking about SAG and AFTRA. What trouble are they causing these days?
Well, the SAG-AFTRA, of course, the unions merged 3 years ago now, 2012. They're in their election cycle. It's every 2 years now, mercifully, rather than every year, the way it used to be. And the candidates, in some ways, at least some of them, are still fighting the battle over merger. The folks who were opposed to merger, if you read their campaign statements, they're like, merger is a terrible thing. And it's like, well,
it's done.
It's done. It's done. It happened, guys. But there is that. And then in New York, there are 2 slates running, but they're not running against each other. They complement each other. And when you add up, if there are 7 seats free, there was 4 in one slate and 3 in one slate. There's slates that are running essentially together, but rather than run as a single slate, they're running as 2 separate slates because some of the people are a little more SAG-oriented and some more AFTRA-oriented. So, guys, it is still a process, this merger thing, and it's not, we're going to hear echoes of it for some time.
Yeah, we're still dealing with the healthcare part of the whole merger, so it's, it's done, but it's not done. So,
right, the healthcare and the health and pension, and the pension plans haven't even taken any movement towards merge joinder. So it's they're separate organizations from the union itself, and it's a process.
And Jonathan, for people that want to keep track of this process and everything else you're writing, where can they go on the web?
Best place would be jhandel.com, JHANDEL.com.
And Jonathan Handel himself is that smiling face you see on the screen. Jonathan, thanks for joining us as always. A pleasure.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
This is Tech Talk from the Digital Production Buzz.
Serena Catania is the producer of the Digital Production Buzz. She also runs her own production company and produces several films and television projects throughout the year. Recently, her website died for 2 days, and how she got it back is the subject of today's Tech Talk. Hello, Serena. Good to have you with us.
Hi, Larry.
So what happened?
I had to get the boxing gloves off on this one. It wasn't easy. I actually was paying $90 a year for a security site to fix any problems, detail what was happening and correct them. And when I detected the problem, actually I got delisted by Google for a while because of malware on the site. I contacted the security company and I was told, oh no, you're just paying for something that's 50% accurate. Then they wanted $150 to manually clean the site. And then they wanted another $90 a month to monitor and fix the issues. So it was a little disconcerting to find out that something that you're paying for is actually not even working. And I thought it might help our listeners to hear a little bit about how I ended up fixing it. Finally got the site back up this morning.
So how did you fix it?
Well, they started holding the site hostage, and they actually took it down and changed the A record, the DNS listing, to their IP, so that whenever anybody logged into my site, they got a notice that said there's no such site on the internet. So I contacted my internet service provider immediately and told them of the problem, told them that I was a little concerned that the security agency was holding me hostage. And they took a look at the site for me and said, well, actually, there really isn't malware on your site. They haven't accessed the database at all. So I asked them if they could repoint the DNS back to where it originally belongs and take it away from the security site. Then I went on and I checked all the visitors to the site. First of all, I checked the security scan itself so I could see when the problem had started. Then I went on to the cPanel, checked all the visitors, looked at the details of where they were coming from, and pinpointed when the problem had started. Also went to the cPanel and checked all the users to make sure nobody had registered as a user. So then I had to go in page by page and check the code. And luckily, they hadn't been on the database, as I said, so I was able to remove anything that looked suspicious. But the takeaway from this for our listeners, aside from a few tips I want to give them, is really only use a security provider that is supported by your ISP, so that if there is any problem in the future, you can contact your ISP and they're on your side. They don't want your website to be held hostage either. The other thing that saved me is that I pay for a regular backup. Every day, my site is completely backed up, so that one other time when I got hacked, we could get it back immediately. This time, it took a couple days. I also recommend that our listeners get the most secure firewall they could possibly afford. If you can afford an enterprise-level firewall, do that. Double check your A record consistently to make sure you're pointing to the correct IP address, because that's not something that may be visible to you. And I would just say keep all of your software updated, and then just beware of any fake file extensions, like particularly JPEG or PDF. Anything that has a PHP code after the normal extension is obviously a dangerous file, and get rid of it right away.
Cool. Well, Serena, thanks for the update. I'm glad to have your site back again. Serena Catania is the producer for the Digital Production Buzz. Serena, safe travels next month. We'll have reports from South America from you when you get there on your film shoot.
Thank you, Larry.
Sean Wycliffe is the CEO and co-founder of Dealflicks. This is a fairly new company that wants to help more people go back to the movies and save money at the same time. Hello, Sean. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
We hear you fine. Tell me, what is Dealflicks?
Dealflicks is like Priceline, but for movie tickets. So we sell movie tickets, popcorn, and soda deals for up to 60% off on our iPhone app, Android app, or website. And the premise is there's so many empty seats that theaters have. And so what we'll do is we'll get some of those and then we'll sell them on our apps. And customers get a great deal, and theaters get new people into their theater that normally wouldn't go.
Now, why did you decide to start the company in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been a huge fan of movies. Growing up, I would see every type of movie, whether it was in the theater or at home. And after graduating college, I saw this movie, The King's Speech, which was a great movie, but the theater was empty. And this was just a few days after the movie came out. And so I had the idea for, there's got to be some sort of hot wire price line out there to get a good deal on movie tickets. I did some research, couldn't find anything, but I did find that about 88% of movie theater seats were empty. So after I kept doing more research, put the business plan together, and started going from there.
So is the target audience for this site theater owners to fill seats, or is the target audience people to buy movie tickets? What are you focusing on?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So we're kind of a two-sided marketplace that needs both the buyers and the sellers, so to speak. So on one hand, we need the suppliers, which is our movie theaters, and they're our partners. And so we need to get the inventory from them so we can put it up on the site. And then we also need to go out there and do marketing to get customers to buy the inventory, to buy the movie tickets and the popcorn and soda for the movie ticket deals. So we have to do a little bit of both, and we have to kind of do them concurrently because if we just have a bunch of theaters on there and no one's buying tickets, then it's not good for theaters. And so that was a challenge initially, but now that we're getting a lot bigger, we have about 600 theaters that we're in. It's a lot easier to get more theaters and more customers.
So when you say 600 theaters, are you talking about 600 theaters nationwide or in a few states right now or where?
Yeah, they're all over the nation. So there's certain markets that were more dense than others, but essentially they're all spread out across the country.
They are. Well, that's pretty dang good. Where's your headquarters?
We're headquartered in LA, so that's where I'm at right now. We're in the Miracle Mile area of LA, and we also have an office in San Francisco where our product team works out of.
So are you dealing with the big movie chains? Or are you dealing with independent movies? I mean, are there one that likes what you're doing more than the other? Because these big movie chains, they're a tough group of people.
That's a great question. When we first got started, it was really difficult to break into the industry because there's only a few people that are out there and a few theaters that are out there. And so our first year, we talked to about 100 movie theaters before we had our first movie theater sign up. And the first theater, ironically, was a one-screen movie theater here in LA. And the owners were Korean and my co-founder was Korean. And that's a big reason why I think we were able to get that deal done. But from there, we started partnering with a lot of independent theaters. And so these were mainstream theaters that played the blockbuster as well as art theaters. And that was about this year. After that, we started getting bigger and bigger theater chains. Now we have 13 of the top 50 movie theater chains and 3 of the top 10 movie theater chains that are partners with us.
Yeah, this makes so much sense. I don't know why they just say, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. Because they've got to be able to make money during those matinee performances where there's 4 people in there. And as long as the people, I don't know what algorithm you have, but as long as people out there know that I can get in for $6-7 or whatever on a matinee, why not? I mean, it's better than an empty seat. I mean, they've got to make money that way.
Absolutely, and that's what we're seeing now. When we first started, a lot of theaters were skeptical and unsure as to whether or not we would help them bring new customers in and new sales in. But our theaters have seen great increases in their sales, some of them as high as 10% a month in incremental sales from Dealflicks. Sure. And they're seeing new customers come in that never used to come to theaters before, existing customers coming in more often, people coming in with friends. And so it's been a great experience for our theaters.
Yeah, it begs the question, though, and I hate to say this, but why isn't Fandango doing this?
That's a good question. So when we first got started, we had the same exact question, and believe me, we get that question all the time. And a lot of it has to do with the relationships that Fandango and even MovieTickets.com have with their theaters. Both of those companies have been around now for about 15 years, and they initially were started by the movie theaters themselves as a collection of 5 or 6 movie theaters getting together to create a way to sell movie tickets online. And they have pretty much been just doing that and doing well at that. And Dealflicks came onto the scene and wanted to do something different to solve a different problem. And now we're talking with not only those companies, but other companies as well about doing different partnerships so they could sell our inventory too. So we'll see where the future goes, but we're happy that
I hope you, because Fandango, when their customer base, I hope you beat them.
Let's shift gears. What does somebody that wants to attend a movie do? Do they have to become a member of Dealflicks? Does it cost them money to be a member? How do they buy a ticket? Walk me through the process.
Definitely. So the greatest thing about Dealflicks, and one of the things that we as founders really wanted to do when we started this company, is to require no membership fees, no monthly fees, no sign-up fees, nothing like that. You just open up the app by downloading it for free, or you go to our website for free, and you can see the theaters and the movies and everything like that right there. And from there, you pick the movie you want to see and the showtime and the deals that are available, and you just check out, just like you would on any other site like Expedia or whatever. And so there's no fee for that. And what you see is what you get. No convenience fees at all. We wanted to get away from convenience fees, so no convenience fees for the customer. As soon as you make the purchase, you just show your phone to the theater. If you wanted to, you can print it out, but most people just show their phone to the theater. Yeah. And we also save the credit card. So like Uber or Hotel Tonight, from then on, you can make purchases with 2 or 3 clicks.
Are you able to attend new features, or is this only after the movie's been in the theater for a few days?
So when we first started the company, it was usually movies that had been out for a week or 2 weeks. But starting about a year and a half ago, we went back to a lot of our theaters. And now I would say about 95% of our theaters have movies as they're even coming out within the first week or so. So you can see the newest movies on Dealflicks. In fact, if you go to Dealflicks right now, you'd be able to see things like Ant-Man or things like Trainwreck or whatever it might be. So we have a really good lineup with most all of our theaters. And so it's been a good thing.
Since we're in Los Angeles, and since it's, because I love this idea, how many theaters in Los Angeles are you in right now?
You know, what's so funny about Los Angeles is...
It's tough, isn't it?
This was our first theater. This is where our company's headquartered. I mean, this is where we're at. But it happens to be one of our sparsest markets for a major market. So, you know, other major markets, we have way more density. But, you know, even in LA, we have about 5-6 theaters. Good. So we do have theaters here. It just happens to be a little bit more sparse than some of the other major markets.
How does Dealflicks make its money? Are you taking a commission on ticket sales?
Yeah, so we actually have a revenue sharing agreement with our theaters. So whatever we bring in, we have some revenue that comes from there. And just recently, we opened up advertising on our platform. So you might see a little bit of banners here and there. And those are our 2 main revenue streams right now.
Now, if I remember correctly, this is not the first company that you started. You started a different company and grew that. Tell me about the first company you began.
Yeah, the first company was interesting. So that's something that I started when I first became a freshman at UC Berkeley, going into my sophomore year. And I actually was approached and started selling long distance phone service in the year 2003, which is not really something that people used in 2003. But we started selling this door to door. And the service wasn't even that great, but we got really good at it. And when I was 19, I ended up buying a Porsche and dropped out of school and came to LA. And my brother did this with me. My parents were not happy about this at all, but my brother did that too. He bought a Porsche too, and he bought this house in Riverside. And so we were running this thing out of there, and it was like a little mini fraternity. We had 13 guys living there with bunk beds and everything. And by the time I turned 21, we actually got this to over $1 million in revenue. And I bought this Ferrari. My brother and I bought this $1 million house, and we thought we were going to be rich. And the company we were selling for went bankrupt at the end of 2004. And I was young and naive, so I spent all my money on the things mentioned and had to move back in with my dad. And it was a tough time. But through that experience, it was good. I mean, from ashes rise new trees or plants or whatever the bigger speech is. And so I actually had a complete conversion experience and started working in the ministry with my church for 2 years. And after that, I went back to school at UC Berkeley and started selling cell phones and got that up to over another $1 million in revenue. And then I graduated in December 2010. And then I saw the King's Speech. So,
You know, there's nothing like having to struggle with a business to make you realize how to get your act together the next time you start a business. That's a huge learning curve. Congratulations on surviving it.
Absolutely. Instead of paying $30,000 in tuition to a university, you just pay it to your credit card companies or whatever.
Exactly. That's a great.
You pay the money.
That's a great attitude.
So let's switch back to Dealflicks. You're in about 600 theaters right now, and there's certainly more theaters to grow. What are your challenges? Are your challenges breaking into new theaters, or are your challenges getting the word out to a larger audience? What are you going to be focusing on for the next 6 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over the last year, we really focused on the big chains. And so we started making some progress with the bigger chains, and we're still talking a lot of the bigger chains. So that's a big point of focus for us over the next 6 months. And we're also focused on expanding our customer base. Over the last 6 months, we found a couple of new really good marketing channels that have been working well. So we're just continuing to do marketing over the next 6 months. One of the new projects that we're picking up right now is advertising on our platform. So that's a new revenue stream for us. And international expansion is another new thing that's on our plate now. So my co-founder was actually just in Spain for almost a month. Some of that was work, some of it was not. But he was over there, and we were in Canada as well. And so we're working on that. Those are some of the new things that we're looking at getting into as the next 6 months, 12 months go on.
Yeah, I don't understand business, but I don't understand the resistance of the chains. I mean, this is a chance for them to put bodies in the seats when there are no bodies in the seats there. I mean, isn't there a way that we can tell that how many people are in the theater or are going to be at that particular screening now with reserved seats and things like that? I mean, how hard can this be? There should not be any resistance.
You sound like me, so we should talk afterwards and come with me on the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. You're idiots. You're all idiots.
But yeah, I mean, they're coming around now more because initially it was just we were the new kids on the block, and it's a very closed industry. It's a lot of people that have been doing business together for 40 years, and not a lot of new people, new faces coming in. So initially it was hard to break in, and once we broke in, a lot of them wanted to see us play around with the newer guys, the small independents. But now that we've had a lot of success and we've shown a lot of great results, everyone's pretty open. We're just getting the meetings and kind of trying to make it a priority. But it's growing. We're doing our thing, but it does take time. So,
are you going to stay focused on movies, or are you going to expand this into concert tickets and live theater and other venues?
Yeah. So strategically, we're looking at just movies for the near future. International is a big thing. We're also looking at potentially even getting into dynamic pricing in a bigger way. So right now, their price will fluctuate quite a bit depending on day of week, time of day, things of that nature. But we want to make it even more fully dynamic. So it will actually even get to the point where if all the deals sell out and there's no more discount ticketing available, you can still buy full price tickets on the platform. So we can become a one-stop shop, and whatever you want to buy, whether it's movie tickets or deals or whatever it is for the theaters, we have that. So that's kind of the next big phase rollout. From there, I think once we really get ubiquitous, we might even look at other industries. But right now, we're totally focused on the movie theater industry because it's so big.
That's a very cool idea. And how long ago was the company founded?
Yeah, we just had our 3-year anniversary a few days ago, so we got a little birthday cake with the 3-candle thing on there. We launched July 13th, 2012. So.
Congratulations, 3 years old. And for people that want to learn more about where to get deals on their movie tickets, where can they go?
Absolutely. You can download our app in the iOS, iPhone App Store, or Android App Store, Dealflicks, Dealflicks. You can go to dealflicks.com, and you can also find us on Twitter at Dealflicks or on Facebook/Dealflicks.
Okay, so we need some more theaters in Los Angeles. Okay.
So
absolutely, yes. If you're listening to this and there's a theater that you go to that's not on Dealflicks, go to them, talk to the manager, and tell them you need to be on Dealflicks because I'm losing my mind. That helps so much. We've had a few theaters sign up even after just 3 people told them to sign up with Dealflicks. So.
Oh, great.
See, Mike, you can be their LA rep and go around and bid up on theater owners and say, how stupid are you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how stupid are you? What are you thinking?
Sean, thank you so very much for joining us. Sean Wycliffe is the CEO and co-founder of Dealflicks at Dealflicks.com. We wish you great success, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care. Bye-bye.
It's time for a BuZZ flashback, 5 years ago today.
Describe in broad strokes how you take a 2D film and turn it into 3D.
Well, it's going to be very broad. The process of 2D to 3D conversion involves the assigning every pixel in every frame to its associated object. So in other words, we have a person, and every pixel in that person is defined as that person.
This was a BuZZ flashback.
You know, Michael, it's interesting. It seems self-evident to us sitting on the outside that something like Dealflicks, which is just putting bodies in seats and making money for everybody, is a no-brainer. And yet they're having such resistance and breaking into an established industry.
Well, I know you're
just find
dealing
that
with
fascinating.
giant corporations and things like that, and you have to go through the process, like he says. But if nobody else is doing this, and I don't know, there might be some apps out there that are similar to what he's doing, but if nobody else is doing this, it's such a great idea. And obviously, these guys have proven that they're serious about what they're doing. And as long as they don't have any felony records, I don't see why this is that big a deal. Absolutely, sign up, do it. Get those bodies in the seats.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. And a license to print money if this thing takes off.
Oh, absolutely.
My gracious.
There's a lot of us that go to matinees. And then the reason we go to matinees is to save $2. Well, why not save $6 or $7?
And fill the theater.
And fill the theater. Or at least get more bodies in the seats. I mean,
you're not
going to fill the theater in bad movies.
You could do the same thing for Lapsy Pug.
Yeah. I have free registration, for God's sakes. You can't get much better than that.
Well, you could pay us.
Yeah. Dealflicks at Lassie Bug meetings. Okay.
I want to thank our guests for today, and starting with Danny Manus, who is the script consultant and CEO of No Bull Script Consulting, and then Jonathan Handel, who is of Counsel at TroyGould and the entertainment labor reporter for The Hollywood Reporter, and let's see, Sean Wycliffe, who is the CEO and co-founder of Dealflicks that Mike and I were just talking about. Check out our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com and discover hundreds of past shows and thousands of interviews, all searchable, all online, and all available. Visit with us on Twitter at DPBuzz and Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Our theme music is composed by Nathan Doogie Turner with additional music provided by smartsound.com. Text transcripts provided by Take One Transcription. Visit takeone.tv to learn how they can help you. Our producer, Serena Catania, engineering, Megan Paulos, Ed Golia, Keegan Guy, Alex Hackworth, Eileen Kim, and Brianna Murphy. He's Mike Horton. I'm Larry Jordan. Thanks for watching The BuZZ.
Goodbye, everybody.
The Digital Production BuZZ was brought to you by Otherworld Computing, providing quality hardware solutions and extensive technical support to the worldwide computer industry since 1988. And by Advantage Video Systems, who provide professional and integrated video and data solutions to post-production houses, broadcast facilities, as well as corporate, educational, and government institutions.